Hey, everybody, this is Steve Levy from ESPN, and you're listening to Missin Curfew.
What's Missin Curfew? It's when you kind of play guilty, but you show up.
How nice is a green light on the road, though? No practice tomorrow, no plane, just go.
Scotty Upshaw in the clear, and he scores! Right in front, scores!
A few laughs, a little bit of fun, and obviously a lot of hockey talk.
You're listening to Missin Curfew.
The lads.
Fella.
Oh, man. Fella Friday.
Fella Fridays roll on here at Missin Curfew. We got a beauty this week. Legend. Love when he calls a game.
I loved it, too. I listened to him the other day. He'd call a college football game Saturday. It was, I'm like, Steve.
Yeah.
It was great.
He did call it. What game was that?
It was a TCF game.
Yeah, I heard him, too. I'm like, that's Steve.
What a perfect night. I was going to, I'm thinking, okay, he loves hockey. Voice of hockey now, him and on ESPN. Him and Bucci. But what a just a voice to listen to a college football game to. Well-rounded guy, loves sports, loves the Jets. But what a guy to listen to.
Yeah, he's a pro. He's been doing it for a long time, and he dives in here actually where he talks about the difference between calling a hockey game to a football game, and you ask him about the Manning cybercast that they do, and makes a great point how football stops all the time, right? Where hockey doesn't. So he's always on his toes. He calls a great game. Him and Bucci are by far my two favorites at ESPN. This guy's been great to us. We talked to him about the Frozen Frenzy that happened. We talked on some outdoor games, some Stadium Series games. He gives us some insight to what he thinks about, there's some cool venues around the United States, so where we can maybe have games like that. So it was all cool what he said about that stuff, up dog, and just a pro.
Yeah.
Good hair.
He likes getting on the road.
I think he does.
Has to. I mean, you put together a good group of guys to call a game with, and then what's better than, calling a nice match, seeing some, good live action, knowing you called a good game, and then getting out on the road with the boys, getting a nice dinner, nice celebratory beer after. I mean, it's good living. I miss the road, obviously.
Yeah, we
fella tour.
We know you
get
do
that, but man, it's got to be nice knowing you call a nice game, and then you're enjoying cold ones.
I'd like to see him get a little more west than he does.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's got in his contract that he doesn't do the flyover states to come out west here. But
he's a busy guy. I feel like he's in, he's probably in Connecticut every day. Every day,
probably every day.
What a studio too.
Yeah, we touch on the studio, and he touches on what the studio first was when he first went there, which I thought was pretty cool. Right? He's like, now we got this. It's basically like a college university says, but when he first showed up there, much like Missin Curfew, we got a great studio now, but right, you don't know what you're doing. They're just building out, and now to see how big it is and have hockey back on ESPN. We touch on Barry Melrose, a guy that means a lot to him. That's been a lot to hockey that we both love. So it's a cool interview here. Great guy, and he's been great to Missin Curfew. Okay. So we got Steve Levy coming at you right now, up dog.
Fella.
Welcome back to Missin Curfew, up dog. Legend, veteran. When I think of that, I think of veteran presence.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the
Great
pod.
hair. Great hair.
Great hair. We're going to have to ask him what he puts in there. But he's coming off a tough loss last night to his New York Jets. But Steve Levy, first of all, fella, thank you for taking the time. And second, what a lid that is. The Nordiques, baby.
So I purposely wear this, obviously not for you guys, but when I wear it around town or on vacation, I go someplace weird, like 99% of the people don't know what it is, right? So you always know when someone's, hey, Lake Nordique or something, like Dallas, they're a true hockey fan. So I always love the logo. I'm not sure I want expansion, but I'd love to see the NHL back in Quebec. Those, as a native New Yorker who grew up with Rangers Islanders, those Montreal Quebec games were out of control.
Yeah.
You guys go back that far or not?
Yes, of course. I do. I played in that Pee Wee Quebec tournament twice, Steve. And I won.
I knew he was going there.
But I have to because he says Le Colisée. Like, I scored one Gino in there in the final to win the thing for my hometown, Fort Mac. But that place was, for me, I had Edmonton Coliseum, and then I had that place were my two only really NHL rinks I see until I was 16 years old. And it brings back memories. And Quebec, the city, the culture. I was young, and we're from a little tiny town in Alberta. It was amazing. So it'd be great to see him come.
It was a tournament, yeah, Steve. Like I heard about it growing up. I was never on a good enough team to go there and play there, but it was the tournament.
You've heard of it. How come you didn't play in it? How come you weren't?
Well, listen, I'm gonna blame my coaches. My dad was the coach, so I'm gonna blame my dad, and I'm gonna blame the lack of talent on the rest of the team, Steve. It was I gotta blame the rest of the boys.
Fair. That's one of the 2 NHL buildings I think I never got to. I haven't been to Winnipeg, the old place or the new place even, but that and Quebec. I would have liked to see Lake Coliseum.
I played in the old one in Winnipeg. Did you play in the
No.
old one? Yeah, the old one it felt like it was, in the American League, Manitoba Moose. It felt like, Steve, it was right. Like you could grab up and touch the people in the nosebleeds. It was like right on top of you.
That's the famous picture of the Queen, right?
Exactly.
That old place.
That's true.
Well, Steve, thank you so much, buddy. Me and Updog, we love what you're doing. This is your second time on Missin Curfew. We appreciate it. We both watched you call the Bruins and Leafs last week. You did a hell of a job. I want to start with the Frozen Frenzy. It's something that me and Uppy had talked about previous year about trying to do an NFL red zone for the NHL. And is it just power plays? Is it this and that? Like I thought it was great. I don't think you need every team to play for it to be successful, but a guy that was sitting there and running it, well, what were your thoughts on it?
So first of all, it was win-win for everybody concerned, right? And kudos to the NHL for thinking outside the box. Honestly, I think it was our idea. When I say our, I mean ESPN. Certainly not mine. I had nothing to do with it. But the NHL has been very open to outside ideas and trying new things and trying to be first in some things too. So I thought it was a great idea. And listen, I did not get the full effect because I was on ESPN. We had the triple header. So we kept promoting it, but it was really Butchie and Weeks
Yeah, that's right. My bad.
on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus who were sort of facilitating the whole thing. But no matter what happened, before the night even started, it was a win for the NHL because there was so much hype, right? So much talk about it. And, when the ESPN hype machine gets behind something, that's pretty powerful. So that was a win for the league, that people were talking about hockey and the games. And again, the clubs had to be cool about it. Some of the fans had to be cool, right? There were some weird early starts, some weird late starts because of the staggering. But overall, it seems like a slam dunk to do it again outside of the scheduling issues, right? Like, I think they only played 2 games the night before, 1 game the night after because teams couldn't get there. You can't play back-to-back, whatever it was. But it was really cool, and I'd like to see it at least 1 or maybe 2 times every season going forward.
Yeah, I think there's room for that. Do you see like the ESPN does such a great job with Peyton and Eli on Monday Night Football? Like it's a great bi-channel to the broadcast.
They are great.
It's incredible with Arnold.
Did you see him last night when Manning was doing the audibles? He's like, "Oh, Turtle, yeah, Turtle." You just go like that. He's like, it was unbelievable.
But do you think hockey has room to explore maybe that, like a live stream from some personalities, but whether they're in hockey or away from hockey, just talking about the game and just shining some light on the personalities behind it?
Look, the issue with that is football stops, right? Every 5 seconds, football stops in essence for 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds. So that's the beauty of that. Like I get the game is going on while the Manning is talking, but there's a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
And in hockey, we simply don't have that. So listen, if you were not so interested in the game itself and you had the right compelling people, absolutely you could work in hockey. And there are, look, you 2 guys would be great at it, but you need the right personalities, and Peyton and Eli are obviously perfect for that spot.
Uppy had missed half the game going to his wine fridge. I'm like, Uppy, you missed a play over there. He's like, I got a good 2018 here, Rose. I got a good 2018. It's nice.
I tried to play a couple extra holes and get back for broadcasting.
No, but Steve, you make a great point. I went and watched the Ducks play the other night live, and whenever I go to a game live, I realize how much I actually miss playing, how great it was to be out there playing in the NHL. But one of my California golf buddies, TD, said, when you watch hockey, you got to be on. Like you watch football or whatever, you got to be on. And when I was like, he's right. Like when you watch a hockey game, you got to be paying attention or you're going to miss it like that.
And listen, when you're doing play-by-play, like it's really hard. It's really different because the second I look down for a stat or a year or a rank or something, that's when the guy shoots it in from the red line and it goes in and I miss it, so there's no downtime in hockey, which is the beauty of the game, right? Which is the part we love the most, but it really impacts the broadcast in that way. you have time to tell stories in other sports. And actually, somebody asked me about this recently. I think baseball is the most difficult sport to broadcast because of all the downtime, right? You're manufacturing the stuff. There's just, hey, fastball, strike 2. What am I going to say about that? So I got to go someplace else, a story. And, and Vin Scully was obviously great.
Yeah.
He did it by himself, too. But hockey's so different. There is no downtime. That's the reason we love it. But it's hard to get these great stories out, these anecdotes, to champion some of the great guys. You got to do it in the intermission because there's no time during the game. It's so fast.
Steve, don't feel bad about putting your head down and missing something when you're calling the game. We did that when we played in the league, right? Was that my guy or yours? I think
I had my guy. Hey, come on, I don't know what you're talking about.
Whose guy was that?
Hey, Stevie, how hard would it be to call a game from the studio, doing a live game to say, I watched Weeksy do it on Saturday, the Oilers game as an afternooner, him and EJ, but how hard is that? Like, I feel like to be, I watched Chris Cuthbert do it live here in Anaheim with the Leafs game and watching a pro like that and yourself, it's amazing, but you got to be over top of that game, calling it with excitement and to see the plays unfold. From the studio, man, that was just, I'm like, this is just difficult.
It's difficult because the natural energy isn't there, but it's also difficult for the actual play call. Like, so I call both sports, I call them very differently. In the NFL, for like doing Monday night or whatever it was, even on radio now what I'm doing, I call that almost entirely off the monitor. I'll be honest with you. I am almost entirely on the monitor for football. The stadiums are massive, right? There's no way for me to be able to see from the press box down at the goal line. Did he catch the ball? Did he step out of bounds? All the little stuff. Did the football come out? And it's the whole catch, no catch. Did he bobble it for a second? So that's why I'm on the monitor in football. The issue with hockey is the screen can only contain so much. And those, you get a headman pass, you're out of the screen. I mean, so if you were on the monitor, you could never see that. And so in the arenas, which are much smaller than NFL stadiums, I'm never on the monitor. In fact, the producer's always a mayor. Hey, look at the replay of the monitor, check a promo. I'm never looking at the monitor in hockey. I'm strictly focused on what's going on the ice. So it's entirely different. So yeah, what Weeksy does is Weeksy, our buddy EJ Raddick as well, that Saturday showcase they have, or is it Sunday? I don't know. Anyway, they call it off the monitor. That's very, very difficult. That's a skill all by itself.
Uppy just wants to see the boys get on the road, eh, Steve? He's like, let's get those guys on the road.
Bellator.
So they got a nice dinner and enjoy the fun.
Nobody wants to be in the studio for a game. That just ruins the whole thing,
Speaking of studios, one thing the Frozen Frenzy did let out to the public is how big that studio is that you boys got at ESPN there. When Bucci went from one set to the other, I was like, if you had to go to the bathroom, I mean, it's massive, eh, Steve?
It's a college campus, guys. It's a big college campus. That's how I describe it. Now, listen, I've been there a long time. I was there for one building. I was there when our cafeteria was really, a slot machine, with Doritos in it, and that was it. And now we have our own Starbucks, and we got shuttle buses, and we got a security system, and it's a college campus. It's massive. The studios are spread out. That was a really cool drone shot, buzzing around the building in Bristol. So, Bristol it's not a major metropolis, right? But you come over a hill and you see these 12 giant satellite dishes and you realize this is the home of the worldwide leader in sports, as we like to call ourselves. And it's a wild scene in this sleepy little town. Like, if you didn't know, you would never think ESPN would be there. And, but it's a spectacular campus. You guys, have an open invite. You ever get nearby, please come visit. I'd love to show you around.
You know what, Steve? I was just going to say, we're going to come out for the outdoor games, which I want to talk to you on. So we might have to jump in an Uber out there and come hang out with you for a little bit. But Steve, I wanted to ask you, I've been texting with you these commercials you're doing with Jack Eichel with the Stanley Cup. And I saw one last night you did with Jason Tatum. Like, first of all, it's so great and so clever, but how do they come up with that? Are you guys in those productions, or do you just say, hey, Steve, this is what's going on?
Yeah, so it's not us. We're not that funny. We're not that clever. You've seen the show. I'm the straight guy. I just like to laugh a lot. So this started with a company called Wieden & Kennedy. They were the advertising agency. And the scripts were just so brilliant. They were so funny. They're just understated. Like, everything we do at work is, wow, hey, look, oh, bang, crash, boom, right? But the spots are the other way. they're all, hey, we need you to take it down a notch, take it down 2 notches. It's the unsaid, it's the look, it's the smirk, you know? And so they're really fun to be a part of. I think ESPN got away from them for, 5-7 years. They've started to come back now. And look, some are better than others, but it's really cool to see the guys in it too. And I will tell you this. So back in the day, and I think it's still true, we don't pay the guys anything. The athletes do not get paid. I think it's a donation to their favorite charity, and it's probably a nominal donation as well. But guys in the past were flying cross-country day of because the athletes wanted to be in it.
For sure.
I was in a spot with LaDainian Tomlinson, and he flew from San Diego. This was San Diego back in the San Diego days. He flew San Diego, Connecticut, and back in the same day. And again, I think we $1,000 to his favorite charity or something like that. Like these guys, it was cool for the athletes, right? They wanted to be in it. And the hockey spots back in the day were really, really good too. And it's good to see Eichel and Marchessault getting involved, and those were a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, the one from back in the day, I think it was SVP when Arnold Palmer was coming through this caddy, and he goes to the iced tea and the lemonade, and then he walks by, and SVP's like, "Oh man, that was awesome."
Yeah,
The old Arnie.
he's with Stuart Scott, and those two are like probably the best guys to ever have those promos. But that's what I mean. It's just understated, right?
Yeah.
We did this one with Manny Ramirez, and that was in Manny's crazy days, and he was doing all these wild things. And so in the spot, he's just sitting there having a sandwich, reading the newspaper. So he's doing nothing. And me and Jay Harris, the other actor, were cracked. Look at Manny. He's crazy. Manny being Manny, because he's doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that's the goof, and that's the spot. And everybody.
It's like a cameo in Entourage. It's like, who's going to turn it down, right? It's going to be there forever. These commercials live on forever. And I've been to a couple ESPYs actually, Stevie, where, they have behind the scenes kind of the day of, and the guys just laid back. And Ryan Reynolds does a great job on his social media with stuff like that. It just like brings it down a notch, brings everyone in, makes everyone feel, ESPN's doing things right.
Yeah,
It's good.
it's the best.
And it's just so against everything we do, right? Because everything are these big highlights, and take it down and bring it down. It's pretty cool. And it's cool for us to see the guys too. Like I've spent time with Eichel, obviously, but not so much with Marchessault. And Marchessault was really into the spot. Like he wanted to get it. And what the athletes do not get, and I try to give them this heads up, like, guys, I don't care how good you are, we're going to do this 40 times.
Oh, dude.
And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
40 times. The dishwasher spot is 15 seconds. Okay, the final product is 15 seconds. That could have been 4 hours we spent on that. Okay,
Yeah.
and those guys are in full gear. They've got their skates on. Okay,
I mean, the first time I met you was on the set of Entourage. So we spent some time on the Entourage set. We know how long it is. But then we did some commercials for DraftKings and TNT, and then we did a little movie that I think we can. Yeah, but anyways, point being, we know it takes like an hour to do one shot. We're like, you sure you don't got it, boys? You sure you don't got it?
And it's right, different angles. And again, like in one of them, I don't even say anything. I don't have one line, and we're going to do it 40 times. And I could see, Eichel starting to roll his eyes, and there's March still going, and like, yep, this is, hurry up and wait kind of thing, which is kind of the broadcast production thing.
Was it the real mug they had in there? Or was it the...
I looked at
Actually, there is a backstory, and I don't know it, but like we had to go through the NHL. You can't just do a replica of the cup. It's got to be a certain kind. It's got to be a look and feel. And I don't talk out of school, but I think the league demanded we give it to them when we were done with it. So it doesn't get out there in public and circulation. And again, it wasn't the real deal, but we spent a lot of money on a replica, and the league wanted it too after the fact.
I bet, but it was great when Ike's is like, should we run it again? Like, yeah, I'll run it one more time. I'll run it one more time. But Steve, we couldn't have you on without asking you about Barry Melrose. I played with Barry. He was my coach in Tampa for a little bit. I got to know him there, obviously, then throughout my career. And obviously a legend, everything he did for hockey. But I guess what I was blown away with was what everyone else at the network said. SVP, go down the list of people that like how much he touched everyone that worked there and how much he brought hockey into that studio. And, Scott Van Pelt said, I didn't know hockey from anything, but he would sit down with me as a coach and talk me through it. Like he really touched everyone there.
So look, this was an emotional time for me, and I did it. I barely got through it. I was lucky it was in the teleprompter for me because I probably would have lost it. I said it, and we did a bunch of treatments, so I can't remember where I said it, but, at some point, and, you guys have this chemistry too, and I don't know how you first got together, but at some point in your life, you're a colleague, you start working with someone, and then you become friends, and you become really good friends, and then you become family if you're lucky enough, right? And I've been lucky enough to have, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 guys I've worked with at ESPN who I consider, dear, dear friends, family, who know everything about me, and I know everything about them. And so Barry is one of those guys for me. And so, I take this very personally. But that being said, I will also say, in my 30 years there is not a more beloved individual at ESPN than Barry Melrose. And the reason for that is he was just so easygoing. Look, TV, there's ego and personality and all this stuff. And, not every analyst wants to come over early and stay late. Hey, you know what? We got to fix that Ducks Sharks highlight for a 30-second highlight at 1:30 in the morning. And here comes Barry. He's all dressed and the hair's perfect. It smells great, and he's got a smile on his face. Like he just loved everything. And so I got to catch myself here because, one of the concerns was when we did the whole tribute, he's not dead. I talked to him yesterday. You know what I mean? He's fine. He's just not working. He's just retiring, and he's working on his health and getting right. But such a beloved figure. And look, I'll use your platform for it too. I know he wasn't a great NHL defenseman in his 6-7 years. I know he wasn't a great NHL head coach. He had that one great year. He had Gretz. I get it. Go to the Cup Finals, a rookie. But for what he has meant for hockey, I believe he deserves to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame for the contributor or the Foster Hewitt Award, whatever that might be. And so I know Butchie and myself and some other people, we're going to try to pick up that fight. I've been in touch with Chuck Caden. He's in charge of the committee that votes on that. And in the end, it'll be, hey, take the airport test. And I don't know if you guys know the airport. I walked in the airport with Barry Melrose and put him next to anybody else. And you want to see people run, they run right to Barry, and they all know it's because of hockey and what he has meant to the state in the U.S., to the sport of hockey, specifically when we didn't even have the rights to the games. Those 16 years we didn't have the games, it was still Barry, it was still NHL, hockey at every level. And he's just the best guy, and I love him. So,
yeah, that's what.
Well said.
This is an O&L. Remember that?
I sure do. He was Mr. ESPN NHL. Yeah. He the face of it. We're honored to have him as a guy that we looked up to in the U.S. for that. Like, what a coach.
Yeah, when I remember when we hired him in Tampa, I went, holy man, Barry Melrose, all right, here we go. And he walked in with his hair perfect and his big suits on, and I'm like, hey, coach, how you doing? Hey, Obi, love your game, buddy. Have a good camp. I'm like, holy, that is Barry Melrose, and he is my coach. Like, what a guy.
And Obi, you'd be his guy. You'd be his type of guy, and that's the game you wanted to play. Now, listen, the game's not played that way anymore. I think we all get that. Barry still wanted to impact players that way. Listen, I know we lasted 16 games. There was some stuff with ownership I know about, and I think he sat Stamkos. It was Stammer's rookie year, and as a rookie, even though the number 1 overall pick, he wasn't playing in his own end or whatever it might have been, And so I think Barry was old school. You do that with you police players with ice time. That's the only thing you can control. And so Barry tried to control that. I'm not sure ownership like that.
Yeah,
all those kinds of things. But
that's where I was going to go.
He got paid, by the way.
Yeah.
And he stayed down there. He bought a house down there. Okay.
Yeah. Their ownership, and listen, I like Len Barry. I'm Tyson Barry. I love Tyson. I like Len. Oren Cool's a good guy. It was a gong show from the beginning. Barry didn't stand a chance. Nobody stood a chance. It was just, they barely had enough scratch to even get the team, and they bought it, and then it was just like, next thing you know, I was traded to Vancouver. I'm like, God, what happened here? What happened?
I think they had a winning record, too. I think they had a winning record when they let Barry go, too. Like, it wasn't that bad. So.
Yeah. Steve, before we get into some teams here, some guys in the league, we just had the Heritage Classic up in Canada. We're going to do the outdoor games at MetLife. I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority here, but I'm kind of over the games in the big football stadiums. But I think there's so many beautiful parts of this country and in Canada, like Lake Louise and Banff. Like, do you think there's any way these games could be on I don't know, up in Joshua Tree in California, make a rink there or somewhere? I don't know. Is there any way we could do these different games just in a big NFL or baseball stadium?
So look, we've proven they can make ice anywhere. Like the climate almost doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So that's the first step there. I think it's watered down a little bit too. When it was one game a year and it was the Winter Classic, like it was special in super cool venues. And listen, I've been to a couple as a fan. I went to that first one in Buffalo, and Crosby and the Penguins come out in the light blue road uniform, snow coming down. I mean, it was snow globe spectacular. And but you're going there to be part of the environment that you really can't see what's going on in the game itself. The seat at home is actually much better. So, listen, we're excited. Raleigh did a great job last year being outdoors. It's something new this year. We'll go back-to-back. You get 4 teams involved in the same weekend in MetLife. But, yeah, I'd like to see some different venues. I'd like to see some different places. But it's almost like, you know what, it's cat's out of the bag. Like it's already too good. People clamor for it. These markets want it. It's obviously a money maker. It looks great on TV, and so I don't see it going away anytime soon. And maybe they won't add any more, but let's change the venues up a little bit. Sure, we don't need to go back to Fenway Park again. There are other places out there that would be just as good to see for the first time.
One last thing on that. You've obviously been to the Rose Bowl throughout your career, right? I went there for the first time. I mean, to me, when I walked in there, Steve, I thought outdoor hockey game would be great because it's smaller. It's not a big, massive football stadium,
Buddy, I haven't heard anybody say that. And, the Rose Bowl, they're the only one of the big bowls that has to have the kickoff at a set time. Like, that's in the contract. It has to kick off. And the point is, so sunset. You see the sunset over, I'm not sure, San Gabriel Mountain.
Whatever that's what it is. San Gabriel's,
spectacular mountains, that spectacular, iconic Rose Bowl shot. And so that would be a really cool look. Obviously, you couldn't do it on New Year's Day, because Rose Bowl is busy on New Year's Day. But at another time, maybe in another month, that'd be a really cool idea, bud. I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, if that happens, dinner on us in Hollywood, buddy. We'll start it off, all right? We'll take
Hockey's really hey, you'll be doing a good job, Steve, because hockey be taking over if we get that New Year's Day. Steve, let's talk a little bit about the parity with the skill in the league right now. You're looking at Elias Pettersson's leading the league in scoring right now. Vancouver Canucks are on fire. The Hughes brothers, Kucherov still doing his thing, but just the amount of skill right now, we're 10, 12 games in. Guys are really on a showcase, puck movement, different line combinations that are working well. What do you see so far with that high skill and the comebacks? The comebacks last night, the Tampa Bay, I don't know if you saw that, but Tampa Bay Toronto game last night was wild. But that parity in the league is great.
Listen, that's probably Gary Bettman's number one mandate, right? Parity in the league, and we want new blood in there. Last week, I want to get this number right, I think there were 5 teams in playoff position who did not make the playoffs a season ago, and that's good for business, right? That's good for the league. Ferraro, is not a great statistics guy, numbers guy. He blurted out something. I had to double check myself on it. U.S. Thanksgiving, which is what? 3 weeks away? 3 weeks away. If you're in the playoffs, traditionally, 80% of the teams, 80, that's a massive number. If you're in a playoff spot with, 4 or 5 months still left in the regular season, you're going to make the playoffs. So that's the real first benchmark. And the league is great. The skill has never been better. Even you watch clips back in the 80s and the 90s. These are great players. And there's no way they can compare in terms of the skill and the speed. Now, listen, these guys don't have to worry about their head getting taken off.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right? That allows you to move a little faster. We're talking about, not looking and having your head down. Like, that allows you to keep your head down an extra second and make that move. But the game is fun. The comebacks are out of control. I think just about half of every victory this season so far has been a come-from-behind victory. And so that's great for the game too, right? You never turn the game off, never leave a sporting event early. I did leave the Jets-Chargers game of the 2 years.
Yeah, that's okay.
Blame you. I shut it off too.
There was no comeback there. So, but the games have never been better. And it seems like there's 1 or 2 guys now on each team. So that's the parity also. It's not just the team parity, it's the individual parity. Very upset and see the Jack Hughes injury. You know, here week to week, here in a month, you know, those kinds of things. But, you know, maybe there's a new face in hockey. I'm not sure people thought of Jack like that. And maybe he is the guy. And I love what Doc's doing in Vancouver. Let's make the Canucks relevant again. I can't believe the start they're off to here. You know, now can they keep it going?
Yeah. I want to ask you about a couple of, older guys, obviously guys that we played throughout our career. Father Time's undefeated. We got Ovi and Sid right now. Both their teams are near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. And you're right about American Thanksgiving. As ex-players, when you look at the schedule, then you kind of know where you're sitting. What are your thoughts on both those teams and both those guys so far in this short sample size?
Listen, I'm never concerned about those guys. I'm more concerned about what's around them, right? I saw Washington on opening night. Again, it was the opener. They just looked like they didn't have a lot, you know. They didn't have a lot going on. It looks like it could be a really tough season for them. Backstrom, it looks like, is not going to, you know, by all accounts, not going to play again this season while he's sorting out his health. So, you know, all the focus was already when you play the Capitals on Ovechkin, and now it's even harder for Ovi too. So, and listen, you know, this sort of upsets the timeline for Ovechkin and his chase of Gretzky, right? We thought, hey, maybe January next year. Well, if this thing slows, who knows how next year goes? Maybe we're doing another season. Kind of like the Bill Belichick watch too, right? Patriots having a bad season. How's he going to catch Don Shula? Now we're looking at 2 or 3 seasons. Can he survive 2 or 3 more seasons? Maybe not. So, you know, so that's Ovechkin. And Crosby in Pittsburgh, I like the idea what Pittsburgh was doing. They were going to give this one last kick at the can, right? With their core group, adding an Erik Karlsson. I really liked what they were going to do. And then I thought they got off to a pretty good start. I was like, okay, here comes Pittsburgh. It's a long season. We'll see how it shakes out. But as you started with the whole thing, Father Time, you know, he even got Tom Brady at some point. You know, so it happens to everybody.
Did it really catch Tom? Because, geez,
I
still think he could sling it for about half the teams in the league right now. Stevie, talk about a little bit about maybe 1 or 2 of your surprise squads so far this year. You know, we got one here backdoor, the Anaheim Ducks, who lately have just been sticking it to everybody. What a road trip they had out east. But, you know, besides them, anyone stand out to you? And then, you know, we're like betting guys. Is there anyone that you're like, you can't count these guys out? I've seen them play live. They're fast.
They're looking good.
Yeah, they're good.
Well, so Boston is one of those never count them out, right?
Crazy.
You remember the start of last season, right? They had all the big boys were hurt and going to be for months, right? It was McAvoy, Bergeron, Marchand, right? And said everybody was like, hey, keep around 500, right? Stay in the race till everybody gets back, and then you can make a push. They go on to the greatest season of hockey history. And this season, no Bergeron, no Krejci. The goalies can't possibly be as good as they were last season, and they are, and they have the best start in franchise history. So Boston seems to have that magic. I don't know if Jim Montgomery can win Coach of the Year for back-to-back seasons. I mean, that would really be saying something. We already touched on Vancouver. Their start, you know, that has to be a surprise. I knew they'd be better, but not like they are. I even had Arizona as maybe a sneaky wild card team, right? They're kind of fun all of a sudden to watch. I'd love to get to Mullen. I think that's cool. You mentioned Anaheim. Speaking about all the come from behind victories, like these are teams that are normally, you know, sort of afterthoughts, right? You know, under the radar teams that are pushing themselves into the conversation. And I think that's really cool. That's really good for the game. I thought Carolina was going to come out on fire.
Yeah, me too, bud.
I thought Carolina was the class of the East. And, you know, they have goaltending issues and help. They always seem to have it. And it's not normal injuries. Like Freddie's it's a blood clot now. You know, it's not a shoulder. It's not a handy, right? Their goalies seem to come up with some weird injuries, and their depth is tested every year, especially in the playoffs. And now they're dealing with that again. So those would be a couple of thoughts. I want Buffalo to be in the mix. I want Buffalo to be the Vancouver of the East. You know what I mean? Like, I think Buffalo should be taking that major step, and haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, that's because they still haven't taken that step on how to play defense. But, I mean, they're getting a little bit better. But I'm with you on Carolina. And then Updog bumped into the great one in Toronto. And after I said, how's Gretz doing? He said, good. He said, doesn't love Carolina, Holmes. I'm like, what? What do you mean he doesn't love it? If the great one doesn't love it, so maybe we were off on that one, Steve. But I want to talk to you about a team that is nowhere near the playoffs. And listen, I've been on some bad teams. I know what these guys are going through, but the San Jose Sharks giving up 10 back-to-back. You've been around the game a long time. You saw the old expansion teams. Have you seen a worse team than this team right now, like back when the Minnesota Wild came in? Or is there a team that jumps out to you?
Got to be honest, I haven't seen them at all. I haven't watched 1 second of San Jose Sharks.
You haven't missed much.
I feel bad for Quinter there, that coach. He's in it. I think you take that job, you understand what you're walking into, right? You get it, but you can't expect it to be this bad. And I think their goal differential is, I don't know, it's minus 60 or something like that.
It's ugly.
After 10 games or something, that's hard to do. So they had, you guys, I'm sure you guys saw it on the social media. That poor kid, my first Sharks game, he had the sign, and the graphic was they were losing 10-0 or something like that.
Yeah.
And won. So that's a rough spot. You feel for those guys in that room, and whatever veteran leadership they have there. What's Joe Thornton doing?
I let Jumbo come back and work the half wall right now. Marlowe, Boiler, get them all back there. Heater, get them all. They couldn't do any worse than these guys are doing. But it's funny, that kid with the sign, imagine 20 years they win the cup and he has that sign. He's like, wow, this is when I was a fan. They were losing 10-0. But, Steve, is there a team that jumps out to you in your history of working this game that maybe is as bad as the Sharks? I know you haven't watched it, but is there a team that jumps out back in the day that I don't, sorry to put you on the spot, but.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
Like, listen, the Florida Panthers were awful, right? For a long, long time, right? They played in Sunrise and, they kept curtaining off the building. There's the 2 top sections now up top behind the goal. Like, they kept shrinking the official capacity. It wasn't the mullet at 5,000, but it was probably, that's a 20,000 seat building. Maybe they made it 12 or 13,000. Washington went through some really, really lean years. I saw that. Pittsburgh had some lean years too, but you guys know it takes a draft pick, and you have to crash and fall to the bottom. Hope in the lottery you get the 1 pick. Hope that year there is a generational talent out there, and that's how you turn these things around. But Florida and Washington are 2 great examples. I think of teams that were really, and organizations that were down and out, sort of falling off the radar there. And then have rebounded and turned themselves around and become successful models.
Well, the San Jose Sharks set the benchmark back in 92, 93 with the most losses at 71 losses.
I'll take the over right now. I'll take the over on that, Steve. Well, I think they get more than 71 losses this year.
I mean, that's you got to tie a couple, right?
There was ties back then, wasn't there? That's even worse. There was ties back then.
I don't know.
Hey,
so talk about the rookie class, Stevie. You got Cooley, who's been stepping up. It was his pick for
here, let me tee it up, Steve.
Yeah.
I've been taking some heat. I'm not 100% sold on Bedard like my boy. I'm Sean Loop. So, but continue on. But that I'm not 100% sold on him.
I think just because there's a big class, right? He doesn't want to give this rookie Calder talk right to Bedard, and he's sizing him up a little bit. He's like, I'm not sure he's big enough. I'm not sure he's fast enough, but. I don't know what game he's watching. He looks pretty fast to me out there. But your thoughts so far? I mean, the kid, he's, shot attempts, he's up top of the league. He's, 5 goals in 10 or 11 games now. Like, so he's on pace for a pretty hell of a good rookie.
Well, I picked Fantilli just because I don't want to be chalk. I don't want to be chalk guy either, right? Everybody says Bedard. I honestly have not seen a lot of the other guys. We go back to the ESPN PR machine, right? And Bedard got all the love, and we were there for, I don't know, his first 4 or 5 games, it seemed. I watched him in warm-up, too. I mean, morning skate, everything has every shot, even in morning skate, has a purpose. That's what I noticed. And, I know nothing compared to you guys, but even I could see that, right? Every shot, he was wiring stuff, even empty net, no goalie. And so that was really interesting to see. I did get a chance to meet him. Look, facially, he looks very young. You know why? He's very young, okay? Yeah. We all look the same way in 18, too. But he's got the lower half. He's got the thighs. He's got the strong core, I think, on the bottom. And he's not afraid, right? He's not intimidated. He's not afraid. I would think you get a lot of young guys. Now, this would be on a good team with superstars around him. You wouldn't want to shoot the puck, right? You want to pass the puck. I think Gretz always talked about that, too. He'd have new teammates who were him on the line, and they'd be afraid to shoot. They always deferred to Gretz, right? So to be a star player, you have to be somewhat selfish in the most unselfish sport, which is hockey. And so Bedard's got that. He is not afraid to shoot the puck. His shot attempts, shots on goal, all those kinds of things were skewing very high league-wide, not even among rookies, among all players. Now, he's getting top-line minutes, right? He's on the power play, so he's getting those opportunities. And I think he's got the goods. And again, he might not win Rookie of the Year this year, but I think he looks like he's going to be a stellar player, the next great player in the game. My 2 cents.
See, Steve, when he shoots the puck, he's shooting to pick the top quarter. I was just shooting to hit the net. So I was shooting with purpose too, but I was like, how can I just hit this 4x6? How can I hit this thing and not miss it? Ow.
You were looking for the pad for the rebound with the assist.
I was looking for Uppy going to the net, pass off the pads, Uppy banging in for me, fella, banging in for me. But I watched a kid play live the other night, Leo Carlson, who I got to be honest with, I didn't know much about. I watched him play a little bit at the World Juniors. I don't know if it's just a number 91, which I absolutely love, but this kid, to me, is checking all the boxes. He looks big. He looks smart. He's got good stick awareness. I think Pat Verbeek got this one right, Steve.
So listen, I'm a Verbeek guy, okay? I think we talked about the last time. I think he probably belongs in the Hall of Fame. I think Verbeek's done a really good job there. I like the way he's handling some players. I like the way he handled the Zegras contract negotiations. Like I think we're starting to see the Ducks turn into something here. And again, it's still probably a year or two away, but I'm a Verbeek fan. They seem to always get that second pick, right? Like they can't get the first guy.
Yeah, because Bema doesn't let him.
Yeah. Right?
Sid the Kid, yeah.
Right. It just doesn't seem to fall that way. And so you got to make the most of it. And again, I haven't seen him personally play. I heard he's got some good bite to him too, which, it's obviously I respect and wanted all my players. But I think good things are coming for Anaheim there. And that has the chance of being, a really great hockey market again, because the Kings look like they're headed in the right direction too, right? The Kings could be a real contender here. And if the Ducks kick it into gear, there was a time when that LA Anaheim thing was fun. That was fun to watch.
Yeah, Steve, last one for me, buddy. We talk about the salary cap and we bring up the luxury tax a lot. I it's never going to happen under Gary. Gary's come in here. He made the standard for the hard cap. I would love to see a luxury tax just to give these GMs a little bit more room to wiggle and the better teams be able to make moves at the deadline. As a guy who's been around the game and seen no cap to a cap, what's your feel on a luxury tax maybe someday?
Yeah, so I'd be in favor of it too. Obviously, the players would be in favor of it. Obviously, you're benefiting the rich owners, right? You're the big market teams for the most part, because they'd be willing to spend and be willing to pay the luxury tax. What I don't like, what's going on right now, is the handcuffing of these organizations. And, some teams can't even dress a full roster, and they can't carry extras. And you're stuck with guys who should be developing at a higher level, and they're stuck someplace else because you can't afford to keep them on your National Hockey League roster there. So I think it's not just a problem in Toronto. It certainly was in Ottawa. We heard that story with Pinto there before the whole suspension thing, right? And so I think all of these teams are being handcuffed by it. And as a fan, again, it's not my money, right? It's not my guy. As a fan, I just want to see the best hockey, and I want to see the best players, and I want to see the best teams. And that would require, spending above the cap. And listen, so the teams who can't afford to go above the cap and pay the luxury tax, they would benefit by getting that check back. That's the kickback. So that's the trade-off. And maybe, hopefully, they would invest that into their own team, although common sense tells me some owners would not do that. They would put that in their pocket instead, such as the world we live in.
Yeah, and I would still make sure that there's a floor. I love how Gary makes sure there's a floor. Yeah. Like right in the NBA, in the MLB, you don't need to go to floor. So some owners they try to lose. You got to keep that floor. But I would love to see that luxury tax on the top.
That floor helped me get my contract.
Yeah. That's why this guy's living on the beach here. You got because they'll tell him how to get to the floor.
We had to get to the floor.
Is Upshaw a free agent? I'll give him $4 million a year. Come on down, Ups.
Did you even have to play for that?
Thank God for the floor, boys. Yeah.
Hey, Steve, we love what you do for the game, buddy. You're so good to us at Missin Curfew. Are you coming out west to call a game at Crypto, or are you just an East Coast guy, or are they coming out here to call a match? Because we'd love to take you out for a bite to eat.
No, we got to do that. We got to get that done. I'll talk to the powers that be who make the schedule. I got out to Denver, saw did an Avalanche game, of course, against Chicago because it's Bedard. We're like the official network of the Chicago Blackhawks. But yeah, I hope to come west. I love doing Kings games. I'm about the broadcast booth, and that booth is really good for the Kings games there. So that's really nice there. Anaheim, not as much. Maybe we can fix that. But
Yeah. Hey, tell the powers to be at ESPN. We'll meet you in Vegas. It's almost halfway, right? We'll come to Vegas. You go to Vegas, and we'll meet you there.
Thank you for talking my language. No argument there. I'll see you there. Pre-game, post-game, in-game, the whole thing.
Steve, man, thank you very much. Say hi to Bucci for us. Say what's up to PK. Keep doing your thing. You're great for the game, buddy. We love watching you. So thank you for taking the time, my man.
Thanks, fellas. Always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome back to Missin Curfew. Up dog, thank you to Steve Levy. He was hurt. He was just a little upset about the Jets loss.
Yeah, the Jets fell for us. But yeah, I mean, this guy watches sports all day long. He's always upbeat.
Yeah.
You know, if his team loses one game, he's always knows there's another match.
I love that he had the Nordiques hat on for the boys too.
The Nordiques hat on. By the way, loves your thoughts on a nice NHL luxury tax.
Yeah, no, it's something that me and you have talked about a while here, and I wanted to get his opinion on it because, we talk about competitive balance and, competitive balance. Like, look at the San Jose Sharks. They stink. Columbus stinks, right? I mean, there are always going to be teams that are bad, right? So, like, why penalize the good teams and say, hey, you can't make a move here, you can't make it. I just think it's better for the fans. And listen, it's the way of the world, up dog. If you got more money than the other guy, you can do more cool shit.
I agree.
Right? You can fly on a private plane. You can have 3 houses. If you don't, you can't. I mean,
like Al says, I want to be 6'5". Well, you're not. So, you can't go buy the best players in the world right now. Unless you win, you want to compete. But no, it's great. I by the way, I just love insight from a guy that knows the game so well, and that has been very passionate about his job and calling a great game and giving the right, the right words in key moments. And we watched, it wasn't too long ago, we watched the Boston Bruins Toronto Maple Leafs game, and Steve Levy solely kept me interested in this game the whole way through until it got to overtime, and there was great plays back and forth, and the people tuning into ESPN that day got to watch an incredible game, and the momentum of it all, and it all just through his words was incredible. So it, always a treat to get the best of the best when you watch the game.
Totally, and he is the best of the best, him and Bucci. But he loved my Rose Bowl idea. Said first thing he's heard about it from Obes. So Bettman, I know you're not listening, but anyone in NHL, this somehow comes across your social media feed, because I know it does. I get stuff come across my feed that I'm not following. So maybe this will come across somebody at the NHL office.
You keep mentioning their names, the AI is going to fire it right to it. It might even end up his email inbox.
So Steve Levy said, the first he heard of the Rose Bowl was from Missin Curfew, the boys at Missin Curfew. So if it ever does happen, he loved the idea. He loved the idea of, there's some beautiful places around this country, man. And, he's a TV guy. They got lots of people that work for ESPN that could set it up. And I just think, I like how he liked the idea of thinking outside the box of these Stadium Series games. But the Rose Bowl, to me, it's slam dunk.
Yeah, I've only seen concert there.
Yeah. I want to say Kings, Golden Knights. No disrespect to our friends down here in Orange County, but Kings, Golden Knights.
I agree.
Rose Bowl. What's the perfect time of year for that? Max, you're a tally guy. What's the perfect time of year for that?
Valentine's Day battle at the Rose Bowl. Get a rose when you show up to the Valentine's Day parade.
December's probably the coldest.
Why don't they call it the Valentine's Day game at the Rose Bowl? You get a rose.
It starts to warm up in January, February.
With that.
You know what I mean? The NHL Valentine's Day game, the Rose Bowl. It could be anybody.
And you know what? It saves the guys playing the games have to take their wives out for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, but
so if you're a player, you're like, fucking right, so I'm playing in the Rose Bowl, and I don't have to take my wife out for Valentine's Day. That's double win if I'm a player.
And for the real hockey avid fans, they for Christmas, they give their wives 2 VIP tickets to the Rose Bowl just so they can pretend they're doing something nice, although they're just going to watch their favorite guys play hockey.
I like how you're tying in the Rose to the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
I like that. I would love to see a game there. And when the sun's going down with is that the San Gabriel Mountains up there, Max?
That's correct, yeah.
San Gabriel Mountains, and it's just a nice feel. Nice feel.
Yeah.
And if it's on Valentine's Day, like the Updog wants, great little date spot for guys to, hey, let's go to the Rose Bowl for the Valentine's Day. You don't want to call it Max this year. Valentine's Day match. You take her to the game.
Valentine's Day match. Depends if your team gets the asses kicked.
Yeah. Depends if you get dumped Valentine's morning. Hey, babe, you want to go to the game? Oh, she had a big night before.
You just take your buddy.
Yeah.
If you get dumped before the game, you got to take your bite.
Take your bite.
Yeah, it happens.
Listen, if you're Valentine's Day is probably big for you now because you got a girl, but like, man, on Valentine's Day when we played, like, it was a perfect day to be single. Because you know, if you went out for Valentine's Day and there was a girl out there that she was single,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, you're right.
Hey, it was a great day to
Or
be single.
her boyfriend was in the bathroom and you just wanted to go chat with her anyway.
Well, I mean, that sounds like somebody else I know, but not me. And I wanted to shout out. You know, is the Frozen Frenzy,
Yeah.
which we thought both was great.
Mhm.
You know, Steve obviously liked it, and like he said, we don't need every team to play, right? I get that's the way they want to do it off the get go, but I think there's something there ups to where, you know, you pick maybe the best 5 games, right, or the best 3, 4 early games, 3 at night in the West out here, and I thought it was cool. I thought it was a good idea. It's something they can continue to build on, but you don't need every team playing because they all played, and then the next night there was one game. It's like, come on, we can find a better balance.
No, I think it's growth in the game, and I think it's the best thing that we did this year, thinking outside the box. And we give credit to the team over there at ESPN because they put it on our channels and they made it happen, and it was a success. And now it's something to move on. It's something to like grow on,
Build on.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, totally.
I still think Princey said he couldn't find it, so I don't know if I said it. I thought we talked about it last year, but anyways, I think it's a good look for the NHL. And then last but not least, he mentioned Barry Melrose, and I love that he said Barry's not dead. You know, Barry's just retired from working at ESPN. He's got a big fight ahead of him, but you know, Barry meant a lot to those people at ESPN and taught. You know, you heard Scott Van Pelt talk about. I mentioned in the interview, like he taught hockey to Scott Van Pelt, so it was good to touch on Barry. Barry, we're thinking about you, buddy. Keep fighting, but just an all-time legend. You can tell how much he meant to Steve.
Yeah, and if we ever get a chance to, you know, to see Barry and have a chat with him, I mean, I'd ask him about.
You'd have a cigar with him.
I'd love to, and I talked the days back in LA, man. They had to be so much fun. He's calling a good game as a coach, and he's back there and good suits.
You would have loved Barry. He would walk around. Obviously, you know, when I was playing for the Lightning this time,
you could smoke in the
couldn't
dressing
smoke in the dressing room, but he would have one in his hand
just
to have.
Look, yeah, I like
something in the studio.
Totally.
So he'll just walk around with it, waiting to light it up. He always had a stogie. Obviously loved a good cold beer. Good Saskatchewan guy. Brought that old school mentality to hockey, and as the game evolved, he still always had that, and that's what I respected about him most. That he never lost his Saskatchewan, you know, old school defense
bloodline.
Okay, yeah. So, Barry, we're thinking about you. Thanks to Steve Levy, Max Hall Pass Media. Thank you, Updog. You the man. That was Fella Friday. Missin Curfew. Fella.